Welcome to Chicago Chorale's second installment of Bruce's Brats, or How the Sausage is Made. I'm Bruce Tammen, conductor of Chicago Chorale. Today, I'm going to talk about Stephen Paulus's most popular and enduring choral piece, Pilgrims Hymn, a well-loved work which chorale and many other choral ensembles throughout the choral world perform on a regular basis. Pilgrim's Hymn actually started out as the grand finale of Paulus's opera, The Three Hermits, which received its premiere in April of 1997 at House of Hope Presbyterian Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. The librettist, Michael Dennis Brown, first conceived of this work himself when he read Tolstoy's short story of the same name, and thought it ideally suited to musical setting. Brown was originally from Oxford, England, and had seen many short, modest operas, especially those of Benjamin Britten, on biblical or quasi-biblical themes, performed in small churches with small orchestras, with the church's choirs serving as the opera choruses and a very limited number of soloists. The sort of thing a church with an active, reasonably funded music program could handle. Upon moving to the United States and the University of Minnesota, where he taught in the English department and was director of the creative writing program, Brown was impressed with the choral music culture of the Twin Cities and thought he'd try to introduce this church opera genre into the area's musical life. He adapted the story into a libretto and asked Stephen Paulus, a local composer, to write music for it, as early as 1987, 10 years before the work's premiere. Paulus agreed to give it a try, but was not enthusiastic about the project. He let it languish unattended for the next 9 years, until Brown, frustrated, threatened to find himself another composer, at which point Paulus grabbed the libretto and set to work. As luck would have it, Brown also found a conductor for the project, Tom Lancaster, who was director of music at House of Hope Presbyterian Church. Tom offered his church and its choir and arranged with a wealthy parishioner to fund the project completely. This was a huge stroke of luck that things all fell together so easily. A date was set for the premiere performance, and finally, Paulus set to work to compose the music. Once he got started, the actual composition happened quickly and easily. Tolstoy is said to have been experiencing a crisis of faith during the time he wrote this short story, and the plot and the characters represent his own questions and the answers he found. The central character, a bishop, is painstakingly correct in his religious practice, sees the world only in terms of right and wrong, and is arrogant and judgmental toward those who fall short of his standards. As the story opens, he's on a journey by boat with a group of pilgrims. He hears about a remote island inhabited only by 3 hermits, old men whose sole religious observance is to repeat endlessly a simplified version of the Jesus prayer, well known and practiced in the Orthodox Church. 3 are ye, 3 are we, have mercy on us. The bishop commands the sailors to drop him off on this island, where he meets the hermits and tries to teach them the Lord's Prayer. They finally learn it, sort of. He then returns to his ship to continue his voyage, but the hermits, having already forgotten the prayer, follow him, running on the surface of the sea all the way to the ship, to the amazement of the sailors, the pilgrims, and the bishop himself. The hermits request his help in remembering the words they'd forgotten, but he responds that it isn't his place to teach them, that they, in fact, are the holy men and not he. He apologizes for his willful pride in presuming to teach them anything, when they clearly are closer to God than he. They depart, still trying to remember the words of the Lord's Prayer, while the bishop is heard repeating their prayer, "Have mercy on us." Paulus was in ill health while composing the opera's music. A congenital heart problem was acting up, and his doctor wanted him to stop everything and undergo some very serious heart surgery. Anticipating that he might not live through the surgery and that his opera would not be completed, or at the least would be the last thing he would ever compose, Paulus convinced his doctor to put off the surgery until he had completed the music, and then he worked on it with great intensity and care. As he said later, under the spell of the story's spiritual message. He completed the music, survived the heart surgery, and was present for the work's premiere. The music for the finale was actually composed for a different scene in the opera with a different goal in mind. Throughout the opera, up until the finale, the chorus functions as a sort of Greek chorus, singing only words excerpted from the Russian Orthodox liturgy and translated from the original Church Slavonic into English. At the close of the second scene, after the bishop has left the hermit's island and is returning to his ship, the pilgrims join in singing the evening prayer, set to the music in question, in a simple, calm, four-part setting in the key of D-flat major, low in the vocal ranges of the singers. Brown, the librettist, found this music to be quite compelling, as have listeners ever since, and he suggested that Paulus reuse it for the work's finale. He wrote a new text for it, based upon Tolstoy's epigraph to the original story, taken from the Gospel of Matthew. And in praying, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Brown's words for the finale particularly reference the gospel statement about their many words, which seems to apply to the bishop's requirement that the hermits memorize the Lord's Prayer, implying that they had far more to learn and memorize as well. Instead, the gospel reassures the believer that God knows what is needful before it is even requested, and is the source of trustworthy, unceasing love beyond anything the believer can imagine. The evensong text, sung earlier by the pilgrims, emphasizes the desire to be sinless and without blame. Brown skillfully shifts the emphasis from sin and blame to unceasing love and grace. Well, Paulus initially resisted Brown's suggestion, feeling that a repetition of the music would be like the easy way out. Fortunately for us, Brown prevailed. Paulus doubled the number of vocal parts from 4 to 8, greatly enriching the texture. He also raised the key a full fourth higher, from D flat major to F sharp major, a key perceived by the ear as much brighter, putting the sopranos on a high A for their climax notes. In Paulus's own words, he uses the texture, harmony, and expressive markings to create a musical mountain of sound, which is exactly the effect his music has at this point in the opera, enabling the necessary transfiguring effect. Well, the finale had the desired impact. People were crazy about it. Kathy Romy, a colleague of mine who was present for the premiere, contacted Paulus and asked if he would excerpt the final chorus and make it available to choirs by publishing it separately from the full piano vocal score of the opera. Paulus's arrangement with his publisher would not allow this, but he did have a prior agreement with them, by which he could hold out one work and do as he liked with it. So, he invoked that agreement and published the opera's score privately, freeing him to do as Kathy had suggested. This turned out to be a bonanza for him. He sold 32,000 copies of the excerpted motet during its first 5 years of availability, and the work has enjoyed steady sales ever since. Paulus subsequently reacquired the publishing rights to his other works and self-published almost all of his music right up to his death in 2014. Chorale commissioned a piece from Steve for our 10th anniversary back in 2011. In the process of arranging this, our president, Jana French, and I met with him for lunch at the Berghoff restaurant in downtown Chicago. It was a comfortable, laid-back meeting. Both Steve and I grew up in the Twin Cities, and Jana is from La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is just across the river. We spoke the same language and had plenty to talk about. He was set to attend our premiere of his work, but a blizzard intervened at the last minute, and he was unable to be present. As things happened, we never met with him again. Complications from a stroke took him from us much too early, depriving us of what should have been many more years of his music making. He was an all-American original, and we are grateful for what he gave us.